All right, so another interview, another hopefully another cool interview, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
um, so I purposely did not do any research at all because I want to learn everything there is to learn about you as
Oh,
as an author. Obviously, I know you're a thriller author. I know you've couple things I've picked up is that you well, you know what? We're just gonna get right into it. So let's talk first about your writing career. How'd you get involved in thrillers, writing thrillers to begin with?
well, it's an, I think it's kind of interesting. It seems to be different from the experience of many people. I did not decide when I was 6 years old I'm going to be a writer. It never occurred to me. But I went into a career in the IT field where you have to write a lot in terms of manuals and stuff. I did pretty well in my English classes writing wise. And so until until I was a couple of decades into my career, actually, it was probably about 30 years ago. Um, a woman was killed in the parking lot of a business next door to mine.
Oh wow.
Her estranged husband drove up and just shot her 13 times with an automatic. And she was a very well educated physicist, and she was working at one of those scientific organizations. And they were in a really ugly divorce, et cetera, et cetera. And I was assigned at the time to a project up in Philadelphia. And I had decided to take the train. I would take the train every week, and I would sit there watching, the scenery. And then I started thinking about that incident. I thought, what if it wasn't a divorce? What if it was actually something awful going on in the business? What if she knew something that she shouldn't know?
Right.
And that really was what got me started on my first book. And probably similar to many people, I wrote on that thing for 5 years. And then I did the traditional thing back in the 90s. I started looking for an agent. And it took me about a year, probably more. And I did finally get one. And he shopped me around to the New York publishers at the time. And I actually got a very good bite from one publisher, and it went up a couple of levels. And then somewhere along the way, somebody said, "Oh, I think we'll go in this direction instead of her direction this time." And so my agent said, "It's really great. Keep writing, but I've hit all the people I can hit." So I said, "Okay, all right. It wasn't meant to be." And then I ended up changing jobs and going back into, I'd been at a university, and that can give you a lot of time to write if you work it
Mhm.
right. So I was going back into industry, and I could see myself facing 50 and the 60-hour weeks. And I thought, okay, well, it wasn't meant to be. So then fast forward about 25 years, and I was dabbling along with a second book all that time, and I retired. And right around the time we moved, I didn't know anyone, COVID hit, and my husband said, "Why don't you go back to that book you were writing?" And I thought, well, darn it, that's what I should do. So I picked it up again, figured it was salvageable. And that really is the thing that kicked me off and started me going. Only that first effort that was 7 years of my life. Getting the book written, finding an agent, waiting for the agent to go through and finally, find a publisher, and then it didn't work out, which is not unusual, not at all.
No.
And I thought, the independent publishing has really grown up while I've been back in industry. Let me see what that experience is like. And I've loved it. I've just loved it. I've loved having the control, owning everything. Um, I do hire a professional editor and a professional cover artist, and I have a professional web person to keep my web going, although I started it. I have learned so much, and it's been such a joy. But this has been a good way for me to move forward and not have to wait another 7 years to
Yeah.
get things going. So that's how That's probably more than you want to hear, but
No, it's great. And so for you, having written that first book so many years ago and now coming back into it, was it overwhelming the way that publishing, I mean, has completely changed from back then?
in some ways, although because I decided to do the independent publishing and I had to learn all that from the ground up. But you do remind me that when I wrote that first book, it was the 1990s. And I found after, again, it's a lot of research, a lot of, well, that won't work, this one might, kind of hunt and peck. And I did find an editor whom I just love. And she told me I had tried to recast it for the 20s. And all of that technology is what was overwhelmingly new. And she said to me, but I tried. And she said to me, don't do that. Leave it in the 90s. It just sounds like the 90s. And then you don't have to worry about updating everything. And it never occurred to me. And I just thought that was a great idea. So they're all set in the 90s. And it's been fun to go back and like remember when we didn't have all of us didn't have cell phones. Remember when the internet was just getting. So it's been fun to pepper the stories with that kind of thing. And interestingly, I don't think about them as historical books at all. But in England, they would be considered historical. It's 25 years for England, 50 for here. So, I got a ways to wait. I don't know if I'll make it that
Yeah. I'm sure I wrote a ton of awful stories in the 90s that I'm glad are no longer around. But that would be my first, if I found one of those and I want to rewrite it now and update it. The first idea is, well, let's put it in 2025. And that really changes the story because of cell phones, because of technology, because the way we interact with each other. And you're writing about a time that it was so much simpler then, right? I mean,
it was. And I find myself even now with my current books, I'll think, oh, well, I'll have her pick up a cell phone. And then I have to remind myself, maybe not, might have one, but who she's calling might not. So it's, it really is. Yeah.
It really changed it. My wife loves watching all the various Law and Order shows. Mm-hmm. And it's always like the two characters have a conversation and one of them walks away. And I always say, phone's going to ring. And automatically the phone rings. And I'm like, that's, every situation is solved with, okay, we just got this, or we just got this information. And I'm like, man, I love those books. I love those shows that are set in a different time where you had actually, boots on the ground.
Yeah, it can be so much fun. But it can also be a little frustrating. On my third book, I started off with an idea and I went back to do the research and I thought they didn't have that in the 90s. I got to find something else. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty. So are you writing standalone books or are you writing series?
Yes and yes. It is a series in the sense it's the same characters so far. I mean, I introduce new ones all the time, but I'm planned for them to be standalone. So you can pick up any one of them and not be frustrated because you don't know who someone is because they were introduced in the first book. And so I asked my editor to make sure that I was giving people enough grounding so that they don't get caught like that. And I had one reviewer, I had a really nice 5-star review from Reader's Favorites. And one of the last things the person said was, it's the third book in the series, but you can read it by itself. Don't feel like you've got to start at the beginning. And I like that because I really want people to be able to pick it up in the middle of the series and keep going with it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, ideally you want somebody to read any of those books and love your voice enough that they're going to go out and buy everything anyway.
Of course.
So for you, what is your take on the social media, the promotion aspect of this as a writer?
Oh my goodness. I'm one of those people who is coming very late to that game. I'm trying to get myself all, spun up to do more of it. I do have a newsletter. I'm on Facebook. I have a Twitter account. I confess I haven't been updating the social media pieces as often as I keep reading I should. And but I do send my newsletter out once a month and sometimes extra times. It's very, boy, is it something to get your arms around if you didn't grow up with it, which I obviously did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often will call one of my kids who are they're all in their 20s, and I will say, what am I supposed to do here? What
Yeah.
what's this? And one of them will go, this and this, thanks, and then all right, I feel like, okay, I look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, my goodness, someone just recently said, why don't you do one of those video things? And I'm thinking, what? Something else I've got to try to get my arms around.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this is me with YouTube. I mean, I watched 100 videos on how to do even the most simple things on here. And everybody's like, "Oh, what do you use for editing?" I'm like, "There's no editing. I hit record. We talk for 20 minutes. I stop the recording, and that's what goes on." Somebody yesterday was trying to get me, "Oh, you need better thumbnails." I'm like, "I don't know how to do all that. I'm some old guy just throwing videos up. Leave me alone."
well, it sure works. You've done a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So for you, is it one book at a time you're writing, or you getting multiple ideas?
Well, I get multiple ideas, and I also do write short stories. They don't tend to be mysteries so far. I've had them in some regional journals, the Blue Ridge Writers and the Virginia Work Writers Project journals. And I really think I need to start trying to get into a short story of a mystery type and try and expand out. I write, I can get one book a year out. That's just my pace.
Right.
Uh, but I have multiple ideas, and I must have 10 or 15 word files started with a sentence or two that grabbed me, and I thought, I think I can go somewhere with this, whatever this generates. So sort of I and I and I really do try to keep up with various notions. As I say, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and write something down, and it goes with one of those word files, or it might go into the new book, or whatever. Yeah. So, but generally, I read about people who can do 4 and 5 books a year, and I don't know how they do it. It's not something I can do. But
Right.
I'm sure they do great, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's the fun of being a writer, because we all have our unique way of doing things. That's why I always like to ask that question, because I'm always curious, what the other people. I write multiple projects at once: short stories, flash fiction, novels. I'm doing I got like 8 or 9 things open right now that I'm working on.
Wow.
But I know a lot of people who put me to shame with, they're writing 1 million words a year, and they're writing, they're releasing 15 books a year and stuff, and it's
Amazing.
crazy.
Yeah, my brain just doesn't work that fast.
Yeah, I guess that's the fun of it, though, right? I mean, you
Oh,
work at your own, you figure out your own pace. You figure out, am I an outliner? Am I a pantser?
yeah,
What hours work for me? What things distract me? That's the fun of it.
that is. And when I first ran into those terms at Pantser or Planner, I thought, what? And I think I'm kind of in between. Maybe many people are. So I try to plan out the idea, and every time I start a new book, I try to put more of the planning into it. But honestly, the characters to me are so real, and they have their personalities, and sometimes they just won't go where I want them to go.
Yeah.
And so I actually, in this last book, I actually changed a character out. I thought, well, you're not going to do what I want you to do, so go away. I'll get somebody else in here to do this. And that's what I had to do. So It is true, and I know you know it. They talk to you. You get to know
Oh
your
yeah.
characters, and they say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm a total pantser. So for me, it's I'm writing this book to read this book, and I want to know. I have no idea where this where this is going, and I've co-written a handful of books with other authors, and they're always we get to that probably to end of that second act, and they go, "Do you know where this is going?" And I say, "I have no idea where this is going. Just write the next chapter. Let's just see where this goes. That's the fun of this."
Yep, sure can be. Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So first off, who are some of the authors that inspired you to write in the first place?
Well, I think I've always been a fan of the British mysteries. I also recently, I mean, Louisa Luna is just amazing to me. And so are, I mean, many of the others are. Um, I had Margaret George has always been an incredible writer to me. Um, and a lot of them you would, I'm sure recognize. Stephanie Barron, J.A. Jance. She gave a presentation at the Killer Nashville conference that I attended.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
and so there, and Nevada Bar. I mean, there's just this whole range of settings and women and men who've just, I don't know, I've always been attracted to the mystery part of stories, whatever they are. So
Yeah.
just a few. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry for leaving out anybody's favorite. They're just so good.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to list like 40 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So who are some of the authors now that you're reading that you think more people should be reading?
Well, there are a couple. And Jennifer Dornbush has just, and I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to how popular people are. So I couldn't guarantee you that this person isn't just really well known to everyone. But she fascinated me because she is the daughter of a medical examiner. And
Mm.
she said one of the first things she was doing as a preteen was going out in the yard and putting various things from autopsies out to dry in the sun or something like that. Wow. And what a household that must have been.
Yeah.
she she didn't become a medical examiner per se, but she went to, there's a forensics institute or school or something in California that I didn't know anything about. And she went there and has written plays and has written books. And I think she's now getting picked up for a TV series if I don't have her mixed up with someone else. So she's someone I think people would really enjoy. Um, there's a local author here, Maggie King, who writes cozies. And cozies aren't my main read, but she's had several out and people seem to enjoy her an awful lot. And Louisa Luna, as I said, she went through a couple of phases. I think if I interpret this correctly from her website, she probably 10, 15 years ago wrote 3 or 4 books and then was quiet for a long time, 10 years, 15 years, until she wrote the series about the girls that disappeared. The person who ends up hunting them down, I can't recall the character's name now, but I really, really enjoyed it. Now, she made one of the National Book Club things. So also the woman who wrote the last thing he said to me or told me or wrote me or whatever. Pretty good too. I try to keep up with what seems to be popular as well as the other favorites that I have. So yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, I will mention all of those authors in the description on the YouTube interview.
Okay. Thank you.
And
And then
thank you for coming on. I really appreciate us chatting for a few minutes. And good luck with everything. I will definitely be going on Amazon and grabbing a couple of books from you because they sound interesting.
well, thank you, and thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Okay. Bye.